Patching together our differences, mending religious divisions by creating shared cultural experiences. Can we move beyond minority religious group alienation toward shared community through the arts and cultural events? A spiritual viewpoint is not just an idea that someone maintains privately in their thoughts. It influences how they interpret the world and what actions they take. Spiritual viewpoints held by a group of people together create religious institutions that often hold significant power over civic life. The artwork on this slide is a photo of Freedom of Worship, a painting by Norman Rockwell. Living in a pluralistic society requires tolerance of differences for individuals to survive and for communities to thrive. Minority religious groups are increasing in quantity, and there's an increasing percent of religious practitioners of minority religions in the overall population. Practice has shown that alienation caused by religious differences can be reduced through shared cultural experiences between different groups, which can reduce prejudice and build community. It's easy to take cultural norms for granted if we are part of the majority or the in-group. Sometimes we make light of standing out from the norm. The Addams Family characters created by Charles Addams can seem oblivious to their outsider status. However, in real life, being in the minority or outgroup can be alienating and have serious consequences. This photo is of Wednesday Addams standing out at Camp Chippewa. In this storyline, Wednesday and Pugsley are at odds with the other campers and counselors at Camp Chippewa, and it results in a comedic melee and escape from the camp. This photo still is from the movie Addams Family Values by Paramount Pictures, 1991. What is at risk? People may feel prejudice against or discriminate against others who do not share their same spiritual beliefs or religious membership. The fallout includes poor mental health, civic inequity, and sometimes violence. In other words, people's lives are at stake. Cities and neighborhoods can move beyond the alienation of religious minority groups by creating shared community through the arts and cultural events. But first, what is religion and how does it influence communities? We'll talk about definitions of religion, factors that can make it divisive, the increase of minority religious groups, and the need to coexist physically for commerce and resources. Spirituality and religion are important parts of people's lives, but mean different things to different people and can be sources of division for people who live in close proximity to one another. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines spiritual as of, relating to, consisting of, or affecting the spirit and corporeal, of or relating to sacred matters, ecclesiastical rather than lay or temporal, concerned with religious values, related or joined in spirit, of or relating to supernatural beings or phenomena, of relating to or involving spiritualism, spiritualistic. The sociology textbook, you may ask yourself, defines religion as system of beliefs, traditions, and practices around sacred things, a shared set of stories that guide belief and action. Spirituality and religion are beliefs that permeate a person's way of perceiving the world and what actions they take. It's based on the reverence of a power greater than the person. It can include belief in a god or gods, reverence for nature, or even humanistic values. Religion can be thought of as a more organized system of spiritual beliefs that have been codified and institutionalized by a group of people. Religious conflict between individuals and groups of people can happen when people disagree on topics related to beliefs or practices. It can also happen when people disagree that each party has the right to their own beliefs. It can be intensified when religious practices are used as the basis for creating rules or laws for a community. Different belief systems are increasingly coming into contact with one another. We live in a society made up of different groups of people with different cultures, which have been brought closer together physically and virtually because of increased access to travel and technology. This has caused more interactions between groups of people with different religious beliefs, and sometimes more friction between them because of their differences. Additionally, people are more likely to choose their personal beliefs with less regard for what their family or neighbors believe because they have more exposure to people of different belief systems. The result of these factors is that minority religious groups are increasing in number, and the percentage of people practicing minority religions is on the rise, especially in North America. According to the Pew Research Center, the other religions population is projected to triple in size in North America from 2.2 million, that's 0.6% of the population in 2010, to 6.6 million, 1.5% of the population in 2050, due largely to switching into other religions, such as Wicca and pagan religions in the United States. This has magnified the need for people of different religious views to be able to function together as communities for the benefit of the whole population. Despite differing perspectives, all the people in a community need to be able to interact for equitable use of resources and to participate in commerce in a peaceful fashion. What is it like to be a member of a minority spiritual practice? I conducted interviews with 2 community members who practice paganism or folk religions. So an overview of the interview summaries. I interviewed 2 acquaintances about their religious or spiritual practices and experiences as part of minority religious groups. These were women between the ages of 50 and 70. One interviewee self-identified as a Norse pagan practitioner, and the other identified as a witch or a hereditary cunning woman. So the similarities between the 2 interviews. They were both spiritual from an early age and had religious affiliations with different religions over the course of their lifetime. They both experienced conflict with religious leaders over their questions about doctrine. This resulted in religious research and exploration. Both women have held leadership positions associated with their current religious groups. They both expressed the importance of being self-reliant, but also the benefits of the community. They expressed the necessity of being true to your beliefs, and they were very open about their religious identities and have experienced varying levels of discrimination. The differences. One interviewee and her family has experienced repeated threats of violence and even death threats from members of another religious group because of her religious affiliation. The members of the other religious group claim that she is evil because of her religion and use that as a justification to harass and frighten her and her family. These experiences, on top of the discrimination, have only added to her motivation to create a sanctuary space to share with other pagan practitioners. So, in summary, the advice and takeaways from these 2 interviewees are to be true to yourself, learn all that you can, use misunderstandings as openings to educate others if possible, create sanctuary for yourself and others wherever you can, nurture relationships where you can, and actively look for and create community. So the need for community and the need to feel accepted. Both interviewees expressed the support that they received from their religious communities, but conversely, the lack of acceptance and support from the wider population. Why do we need to reduce alienation? It causes changes to mental health and self-esteem. We need to be able to maintain civic equity, and it increases the risk of violence. A study in Canada using Statistic Canada's 2013 General Social Survey and self-rated mental health questions found that religious discrimination is harmful to people of all religious groups. However, they did note in the study that most minority religious groups did not experience worse mental health due to greater discrimination. It was just a matter of anyone having any amount of discrimination affected their health. Research completed by Anne Nywin about the adjacent topic, religion as an important source of resiliency for many racial and ethnic minority populations, found religious practice can boost mental health for people who experience discrimination by providing spiritual comfort. The religious community to which a person belongs can provide practical support that takes the place of support that is being withheld from the wider population. This creates loyalty to the religious community, but sometimes at the expense of further disconnection from the wider population. For a practitioner of a minority religion, this separation from the larger population can be exacerbated by policies created by the government. Study results in Great Britain found that government-based religious discrimination coupled with government preference for the majority religious group fostered an increase of discrimination and threats of violence from both the majority and minority religious groups. When laws are based on an imbalance of rights for one group, people over another, it encourages the dominant group to mistreat the non-dominant group with impunity, and it creates an atmosphere of disenfranchisement that makes the minority group feel justified in retaliation. This was especially true when policies were aimed at cultural norms associated with the minority religious group. Osman Sante found in his research on the experiences of Muslim minorities, the process of securitizing Islam in the West escalated after the 9/11 terror attacks. Muslim minorities became hyper-securitized in the wake of events including train bombings in Madrid and London and the killing of a Dutch filmmaker. This led policymakers to intensify the restrictive policies that do not have a direct connection with security policies, such as restrictions on mosques, wearing headscarves, and dietary laws. Emphasizing differences is not necessarily negative, but creating an associated negative value with differences of one group can create feelings of one group of people being of less value than the in-group. Like the term ethnocentrism, which sets one's own culture above all others, religiocentrism sets one religion above others. It uses one's own religion as a measure for all others. This can lead to people thinking that they are justified in discriminating against other people. When a group of people denigrates another group of people to the point of not valuing their humanity, it can lead to violence. This violence can be perpetrated by either group and is usually caused by feeling threatened in some way by those they choose to attack. Factors that contribute to violence include economics, resources, and legal policies. Violence can take the form of hate crimes, religious riots, and war or genocide. Though hate crimes directly affect less people and damage less physical property, they can have a devastating effect on the whole community. As explained by researcher Deepankar Basu, religion-motivated hate crimes, on the other hand, are instances of targeted mob violence directed against an individual or a family. The direct loss of life and property in an incident of hate crime is far smaller than in the case of riots, but the psychological impact on the victim and the community she belongs to is probably equally damaging, because hate crimes are often intended to terrorize and humiliate the whole community of the victim. When the violence escalates to include more people, it can become a war between two different religious groups. According to Amna Shawkat, reporter for the online publication Modern Diplomacy, religious conflicts have escalated dramatically since the onset of the Cold War. Throughout the 1950 to 1996 periods, religious conflicts constituted, at any given time, from 33% to 47% of all conflicts. Sadly, our world has had and continues to have religious-based wars. A small set of contemporary examples include the Bosnian War that took place from 1992 to 1995, the war in Darfur, which took place in a section of the Sudan from 2003 to 2020, and of course the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict in the Middle East. In many cases, religious views have stayed the same in a population for generations, and sometimes even centuries. In fact, some religious conflicts have been going on from time immemorial. It can feel like an impossible task to bring people together to even acknowledge each other, much less become community. Why can arts and culture bring people together? This photo is of a handprint mural in a crosswalk in Ambridge, Pennsylvania. It is a community arts project. So why can arts and culture bring people together? You can use it to learning about differences and reducing the unknown, finding commonality and working together towards shared goals. They can be used towards commerce and entertainment. A study by Tristy Barnett, senior lecturer at Canterbury Christ Church University, found that local arts festivals reaffirm social bonds, create social capital, and provide the foundations for well-being. A case study examined a community theater intervention called Baria is My Project in Turin, Italy. This experiment successfully utilized art to promote connections within the community and generate overall interest in the neighborhood. Primary motivation for participation was the fascination and curiosity about the neighborhood, its history, and its spaces. Okay, so you may be asking now, what? So art's going to have us all singing Kumbaya together? Well, not likely. In the beginning, for sure, it's going to be challenging. This is a photo still, again, from the movie Addams Family Values by Paramount Pictures. So there's a contact hypothesis. Gordon Allport in 1954 believed that planned contact between different groups can reduce prejudice and have positive, lasting effects. He believed that collaboration and shared goals supported by social institutions was critical for this process, and it was one of the best ways to reduce prejudice. So contact can reduce the fear of the unknown, or the falsely known. It can increase openness to meeting strangers, and if we're lucky, it can make strangers into friends. Another aspect that is needed with this is cultural competency training. We need to examine our bias, learn about other cultures through study and interaction, and use bridging techniques, which are methods to overcome barriers between different cultures. It's meeting the other person halfway. So public art and cultural events. Community art projects and cultural events can take any form. You can have cultural gardens, paintings, dramatic performances, documentaries, murals, art shows, festivals, tours of historic sites, you name it. This photo is of a United States postage stamp issued in 1957 for the 300-year anniversary of the Flushing Remonstrance. 30 residents of a small settlement of Flushing requested an exemption to a ban on Quaker worship. It's considered the precursor of the United States Constitution's provision on freedom of religion in the Bill of Rights. So I have some examples of things I actually have had contact with that I thought were successful ways of using art and culture to bring people of different religions together. So the Holy Trinity Greek Food Festival in Ambridge, Pennsylvania celebrates Greek culture and the Greek Orthodox religion. Members of the immediate community and surrounding area come to enjoy traditional Greek food, dancing, and can tour the sanctuary of the church. The Cleveland Pagan Pride Festival takes place in Bedford, Ohio. They have musical acts, workshops, vendors, communal rituals. The festival is sponsored by Crossroads Universal Inc., a nonprofit organization whose mission is to foster pride and pagan identity through education, activism, charity, and community. They also take collections for a food drive that is in collaboration with the Southeast Clergy Hunger Center. Also in Ambridge, the Ambridge Fall Festival of the Churches. The Ambridge Fall Festival of the Churches takes place in Ambridge, Pennsylvania, and showcases traditional ethnic foods made by the different churches and features live music. In addition, guests can take tours of the various churches. And lastly, this is not strictly a religious-based group or event, but the Genesis Collective Media Institute caught my attention. This is in Beaver County, Pennsylvania, and what they're doing is they're trying to collect stories from within the community and get everyone's different viewpoint, and I thought that was really interesting. Sometimes art can break down barriers where nothing else seems to help and bring people together by taking us out of our ordinary world and helping us to make our feelings more understandable to each other. Cities and neighborhoods can move beyond the alienation of religious minority groups by creating shared community through the arts and cultural events. Spirituality and religion are important parts of people's lives, but mean different things to different people and can be a source of division for people who live in close proximity to each other. Conflicts can happen between individuals and groups of people, not only when they disagree on topics related to religion, but when they cannot agree that each party has the right to their own beliefs. Despite differing perspectives, all the people in a community need to be able to interact for equitable use of resources and to participate in commerce in a peaceful fashion. Art and culture can be a tool that can be used to bring people together. We can learn to not accept prejudice against or discriminate against others who do not share the same spiritual beliefs or religious membership. This will help us to overcome such fallout as poor mental health, civic inequity, and violence arising from religious differences. It matters because people's lives are at stake. We're all in this together. It's easy to take cultural norms for granted if we are part of the majority or in-group. Sometimes we make light of it, standing out from the norm. However, in real life, it can be very serious. If we embrace each other's differences, we can achieve great things together and maybe even enjoy each other's company in the process. Patching together our differences. If you have any questions, please reach out to me at my email address, kperky31@kent.edu.